User-centered design. Week 6. Design framework. The design framework. Now we can start designing on a high level. Consists of interaction framework, our focus here. Visual design framework. Industrial design framework. Why scenarios are important. End-to-end experience. Changes over time. Design consideration. Real-world situations and contexts. Scenarios. To adapt and complement user requirements from the planning document. Defining the interaction framework, that is, to design. Uses the persona as the main character. Focuses on the story of the persona. Keep details to a minimum. Constructing scenarios. Most story-like scenario. The design begins here. However, this should be textual, that is not in a design form. High-level actions from the user's perspective. Primary points of contact that the user has with the system. Remember, we are talking about ideal user experience. So create a story where the persona is able to achieve his or her goals by using your system. The story should have a beginning that provides the framework for the narrative. It must also have an ending where the goal is achieved. Example scenarios: healthy food app. Susan is at home. She's looking through her cupboards and trying to locate items for a chosen recipe. Susan is at the park with her children. She wants to find a lasagna recipe to cook for dinner. Susan is talking on her smartphone with a friend about a recipe for a low-fat casserole. She wants to send this recipe to her friend. Susan is out shopping and wants to locate a particular spice that's used in a recipe she's found. Start with personas. Lynn: I want to effectively manage and monitor my family chores. Background: a mom. Like to live sustainably and hate printing paper. Needs and goals: an easy way to set up and manage chores. A quick way to check if a chore is done. Wants to replace the current chore reminder paper system on her fridge. Skills and experience: fairly tech-savvy. She and most of her family members have multiple digital devices. Context scenarios. Narrative: describe the contexts and settings of the application, while being used by the persona to fulfill the needs and complete the tasks. Context scenarios example: it's the beginning of the week again, and Lynn needs to set up her family and chore charts to ensure the family home is kept clean. As she looks around the house, she starts noticing things that require attention. She enters new chores using her tablet and assigns them to her family members. While she's on the app, she can't help to notice that Zach has not completed one of his chores last week. She sends him a reminder. Apart from it, she's happy to learn that most chores are completed ahead of time. As Lynn closes the app, she starts thinking of special rewards for Zach and Justin. Functional and data needs. Data needs: basic units of data. What goes into the database? Example: name, id, username, address, etc. Functional needs: basic units of functionality. Example: loading file, browsing file structure, saving username. Example: data needs. Lynn's data needs: individual kids' chores. Chore completion status. Individual kid allowance. Reward goals. Example: functional needs. Lynn needs the ability to create new chores. Schedule chores. Create accounts for each child. Create new reward goals. Delete reward goals. Remove chores. Key path scenarios. Construct key path scenarios. Flows from the context scenario, driven by the persona's needs. Details two things: the persona's input into the system and the system's reaction to the input. Could be storyboard sketching. Pathways through the application. Focus on tasks. Form factor: the form by which the system or application is available to the user. Type of platform: what resolution. Example: iPhone 5s 640 by 1136. Posture: the attitude the application presents to the user. Casual, professional, transient. Think the vibe and feel. Input methods: the means by which the user interacts with the application. Keyboard and mouse. Voice. Touch and swipe. Fumble around making polite suggestions at the creator, Mikey. Gestures. Functional elements. Functional groups. Consider real estate requirements. Container elements. Proximity: recall this. Optimizing flow. Other design principles. Sketch interaction framework. Label and describe. Low-fidelity sketches of rectangles which are panes. Control components. Use interaction arrows. Sketch interaction framework. Validation scenarios. What-if setups. Trying to find problems with the design. Alternate key path scenarios. Necessary use scenarios. Edge case scenarios. Rapid prototyping and mockups. Fidelity. Low fidelity. More like a sketch missing details. High fidelity. Similar to the finished product. The low versus high fidelity debate lies in the fidelity of prototype required to illustrate a concept, model design alternatives, or test an application. The debate rages to whether prototypes need to be complete, realistic, or reusable to be effective. Jim Rudd, Ken Stern, Scott Isensi, Low versus High Fidelity Prototyping Debate, Interactions Magazine, 1996. Horizontal and vertical prototypes. Horizontal prototypes. Prototype across a breadth of features. Vertical prototypes. Exploring a specific feature in detail. Look and feel fidelity. Look, prototype appearance. Feel, how the user interacts with the prototype. Aesthetics is not a concern. However, the prototype should accurately and clearly portray the interaction options. Building a paper prototype. Cut up paper pieces for screen elements, windows, buttons, menus, dialog boxes. Hand draw the elements as necessary. Get acquainted with pens and pencils. Paper prototype interaction. Point with finger equals click. Writing equals typing input. Someone simulates the computer's response to users' interactions, rearranging pieces. Writing custom responses. Verbal description of complex effects. Benefits. A valuable testing tool. Even if just the designer, implementers are doing paper prototyping, puts the designer in the role of the user. Shows present and missing functionality. Shows how navigation and task flow will work. Limitations. Look and feel difficult to be evaluated. Response time cannot be simulated. Users are more deliberate, they don't bash the system, or be rude, mostly. Mockups. Same role as paper prototypes. Created digitally or drawn. Balsamiq. Mockingbird. Axue. Digital and software prototyping. Becoming increasingly popular and useful as the software matures in terms of capability and ease of use. Examples, Balsamiq, Axue. These allow you to create high-fidelity mockups with scripted interfaces so you could test them. Digital paper prototyping. An example is Pop on iOS. Simulates paper prototyping. Video prototyping. Prototyping for Elmo's Monster Maker iPhone app. IDEO. Storyboarding. Part of design documentation. Storyboard. A comic strip-like set of drawings about what your interface does and how it is used to accomplish tasks in real usage scenario. Is not the same as interaction framework in key path scenarios. Storyboarding. Setting. People involved. Environment. Task being accomplished. Sequence. What steps are involved? What leads someone to use the app? What task is being illustrated? Satisfaction. What's the motivation for the user? What's the end result? What need are you satisfying?